Dr. Ambedkar is a mere leader of Dalits. He is mere, he fought only for the untouchables. That's not the case. I think Indian constitution he wrote for everyone in this complex society to bring a genuine liberty, equality, fraternity and justice. He embraced Buddhism not only for his followers, of course, his followers has a great faith as you understood from earlier interviews. They had a genuine faith. They will do what he asked them to do. He used that faith rightly, but I think the spirit of that faith he tried to evoke scientifically on humanitarian ground, on casteless or discriminationless society, and on genuine emancipation of all gender, caste, class, and people in the world. That's what his universal message is. So I don't think it will be injustice to Dr. Ambedkar to think that he is a leader merely for ex-untouchable community or Dalits in India. I think he has something much transcendent, transcaste, cross-caste, cross-culture, cross-nation to share his message to the world society.
And therefore, the ownership that the Dalit community has of him is particularly profound because they can be truly proud of someone who's not just a leader of one group but of an entire nation and great ideas.
He's a true nation builder. He gave a fractured nation a cement of love, a cement of friendship, a cement of equality, liberty and fraternity to bind all caste and communities together and genuinely to transcend the caste itself, as he says in well-known and masterpiece of his writing in Annihilation of Caste. It's a notion of mind, and what mind can do, mind can undo. So people can be free. He saw that hope, and that's what he hoped out of his constitution and all his efforts in his life.
Vows that he created for people who were going to join Buddhism. Tell us what those
are. Well, I would say Dr. Ambedkar not only revived Buddhism in modern time, but Dr. Ambedkar reinterpreted Buddhism for modern time. There was a dish in the ancient time, which generally I do speak in my talks. There was a beautiful and delicious dish served by the Buddha in ancient time, but India lost the taste. So Dr. Ambedkar taught how to taste the Dhamma in modern time. So that's the delicious taste Dr. Ambedkar is given by reinterpreting Buddhism. And that means being Buddhist means.
So your example of tasting this delicious dish, and this is the newly created dish of an old dish, using the old recipe for a new dish.
Right. Okay. Well, Dr. Ambedkar has his own recipe, I'm afraid, which is much more radical, transformative, non-violent and compassionate, which is more inclusive and not exclusive. So I think Dr. Ambedkar evolved a language that addresses mere individual transformation is not enough. And we can't transform the society by transforming without transforming ourselves. So that was the problem generally misunderstood in traditional Buddhism, is for you as an individual and nothing to do with the rest of the society. Dr. Ambedkar would say no. Dr. Ambedkar's main passion was to transform self and transform society. And I think Buddha by nature will respond to the suffering around him. So Dr. Ambedkar vitally established that teaching in Buddhist revival, that individual transformation is extremely important and fundamental to Buddha's teaching, which he himself did by converting into Buddhism. And then he applied that to his followers. That he says, well, I'm going to convert for my spiritual reasons. I'm not forcing you. If you are willing to come with me, then stand up and take the vows I'm taking. And then he gives the same 3 refuges and 5 precepts which we chanted. The positive precepts are added chanting, and especially structured and composed by our teacher Urgen Sangharakshita. But Dr. Ambedkar before Sangharakshita to clarify what Buddhism is and what Buddhism is not. He gave a 22 vows. I think this is extremely relevant in modern time, not to confuse people. As you said, Sanskrit and Pali. Dhyana means what dhyana means. What mere sitting calm is not dhyana. It must address your inner world and transform it for the betterment. Yeah, in meditation. Yeah. So Dr. Ambedkar gives that sort of qualification, what Buddhism should be and what Buddhism is not. And he did it because at his time, as you said, there was a huge co-opting of Buddhism with Hinduism. Like he says in 22 Vows that worshipping Buddha as a ninth incarnation of Vishnu is a false propagation. So he clarifies what Buddhism is and what Buddhism is not. So he gives a 22 parameters which were extremely important for the masses who comes from illiteracy, not education, and extreme poverty. So he needs to guide them in a quite right and simple way. So is that I don't believe in Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh as a creator. I don't believe that only Brahman should do rituals and then only I am purified. But it is not just refutation. He also says that I think I am reborn today. This is my new birth. I am free from hell of caste. We should be compassionate. We should love all human beings and animal beings as well. So he gives those sort of parameters in his 22 vows. I think it is equally important for the Western countries, and they should come up with their own 22 vows.
So these 22 vows, are they vows that you also have to take when you, say, convert to Buddhism? Are they 22 vows that you would chant along with the others that we were talking about? Or is it something that you read and imbibe and keep as, if you like, the doctrine by which you live?
I would say it depends from region to region, I mean country to country. For India, of course, you can't be a Buddhist without 22 vows because it clarifies in Indian complex social, religious and cultural situation, because it is deeply complex, and we need a frame or a prism to see what Buddhism is and what Buddhism is not. I think Dr. Ambedkar also clarifies this in his last masterpiece, which he wrote at the last phase of his life, called Buddha and his Dhamma. Says what is Dhamma, what is Adhamma, and what is Saddhamma. So he categorizes that. So he's always analyzing and clarifying. So I think that...
Can I just interrupt you? You've said what is Dhamma. What is Dhamma? If you could explain Dhamma, Adhamma, etc.
I think Dr. Ambedkar gives a very clear classification that believing in superpower or supernatural forces for your emancipation and becoming slave to that state of mind is Adhamma. Someone will come and emancipate you, and you live your life, entire life in slavery on the hope that someone will come and emancipate you. That is Adhamma. On the other hand, he teaches Dhamma is the doctrine of the Buddha. But Saddhamma, he says that what we must do, what we must act on, that he clarifies much more radically and clearly in the category of Saddhamma. Might be I need to look at the text and clarify much more clearly further if you want to.
No, that's a great explanation,
Yeah.
but you were saying...
Yeah, I was saying that about 22 vows, it depends from country to country and culture to culture. I must say, in India, it is extremely important because often Buddhism is complexly and confusedly mixed by Hinduism. So, for example...
sorry to interrupt you, but what you're saying, these 22 vows were authored by Babasaheb Ambedkar,
right.
And so they belong specifically both to India and especially for Dalits converting to Buddhism. That's what I understand. Is that right?
I don't think that's right. It is not only Dalits who has to attain enlightenment, I think. It's not only Dalit needs suffering from emancipation from suffering. I think all castes are in suffering, And I think all caste needs the emancipation from suffering, and that's the Buddha is addressing. So I think it is equally applicable to all castes, not only Dalits. Those who wanted to follow the teachings of the Buddha, as I said in my talk, we are not following the teachings of the Buddha because we are Buddhists. We become Buddhists by following his teachings. So I think those who wanted to liberate themselves and free from suffering, they need to follow what Dr. Ambedkar was trying to say in 22 Vows. That means no hierarchy, no inequality, not a dependency of any external agent in human world in the form of Brahmin or big man or rich man, and in supernatural in terms of God. Both are external agencies you are dependent on for your emancipation. I don't think Dr. Ambedkar is suggesting that. Dr. Ambedkar says that your emancipation is in your own hand. If you act rightly, happiness will follow. If you act unskillfully, unhappiness will follow. This is as scientific as it is.
There is an observation that I would make, which is that Buddhism, which exists, well, of course, it originated in India in the 6th century.
Right.
It has been around, and it disappeared, it has come back. Of course, we have Tibetan Buddhism, because the Dalai Lama is a big name in the world, and also an growing number of people are practicing Tibetan Buddhism.
Right.
There are obvious differences between Tibetan Buddhism, which is perhaps more rites and rituals based, but certainly it doesn't have, for instance, greetings like Jetvan.
Right.
It doesn't have the 22 vows that Ambedkar gave,
Right.
and so on. So within the country, you have two kinds of Buddhism, if you like, being practiced.
Right. Yeah, I would say that, as I said, we need to see what is Dhamma and what is Adhamma. Means what I meant by that. What is the teaching of the Buddha and what is not teaching of the Buddha. And the fundamental teaching of the Buddha could be understood simply in 4 words. 4 words means 3 lakshanas, and the 4th one is the dependent origination. 3 lakshanas means everything is changing. There is continuous discontinuity, nothing is fixed in our experiences within us and outside us. And because things are changing, why they are changing? Because there is no fixity, there is no substance which something supports this to stance forever. So there is no fixed entity in the world, anywhere, in Himalayas or in big mountains or within me. Everything is changing, and everything is changing because there is no fixed essence or absolute substance in the matter. And if I attach to that which is not fixed and changing, I will suffer. That's called dukkha. So there is anityata, anatta. Anityata means changing. Things are changing all the time. Anatta means there is no atta, there is no fixed atman, there is no fixity in terms of absolutism or in any form, in anything, in my experience or the experience of the world. And if I attach to it, I will suffer. That is dukkha. So these are 3 lakshanas. And fourthly, Buddha gives how it functions. Everything is dependent origination, dependent condition co-production. Everything arises on certain conditions. When those conditions are ceased to exist, it disappears. That's how the nature of the world. I think it needs to differentiate on these guidelines what the Dhamma is. When you say about rituals and Tibetan practices, and including the followers of Dr. Ambedkar, these all parameters will remain universal. All the 22 vows, or the Tibetan rituals, or the Hinayani rituals are meant to understand this. So there is emptiness, there is shunya nature in everything. What happens when religion becomes institutionalized? We are fixed to rituals and we lose the essence. So we caught up too much in ritual and we miss the essence. So you replace the icon of Hindu or Christian or Islam by Buddhism, but you follow blindly like what other superstitious faith follows. And that's how I think these 22 vows in those spirits are universal. Of course, it varies from culture to culture, because there is no caste in the West, but there is racism in the West, there is class in the West, there is no Brahma Vishnu in the West, but there must be other form, supernatural form, which oppresses their emancipation. So I think that's what Dr. Ambedkar was trying to address in all Buddhist communities, which is precisely applicable in India and especially among his followers.
Excellent.